welcome to the 8th episode of Straight Out of College. I'm Daniel, a soon-to-be graduate from the University of Toledo. For any new members joining us, Straight Out of College is a podcast that focuses on what life is like or what it could be like after graduation. So we interview college students and graduates to see what their perspective is on the transition from college to post-graduation. So today we interviewed Apryl Arrogante. So that was a very fun interview. Unfortunately, Sawyer was not here with me today. He had some side business to take care of. So it was just me for today, which means we cannot continue our the freelance negotiation bit that we have. So you're just gonna have to wait until next week, unfortunately, for that. Me and Apryl, we kind of talked about the industry when it comes to 3D with video game design. Talked a little bit about conventions and just how to kind of network yourself when you put into certain scenarios. It was a really good episode. You're gonna have a really good time listening to it. And here we go. So today we're interviewing Apryl Arrogante. I can't say the fancier version, so I'm just gonna stick with that. If you can go ahead and say your major, when you plan on graduating, and what school you go to.
So like the fancy version of my last name is like Arrogante, but it's all good. So yeah, I study at UIW. The major I'm in is 3D animation and video game design, and the year I'm supposed to hopefully be graduating is 2022. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And I was really looking forward to this interview just because it's the first one that I've gotten where it's someone that's kind of studying the same thing as me. So I know like what I do is a lot of 3D modeling, and I kind of am somewhat familiar with messing around with textures and shading and lighting and rendering and all of that. Just kind of, I have an idea of how to do all the general stuff, but I kind of focus more towards the 3D modeling. Mm-hmm. But so like, what exactly do you do? Like, what's your focus, and what do you kind of do for your studies?
So for my first year, we kind of went through the basics as well. So like, for example, in my fall class, what I did was hard surface modeling and game engines. And hard surface modeling is what it kind of sounds like. You are making props and environments, but you're also learning the workflow of how to basically model it, UV map it, then texture it, then make it work in a game engine or like whatever you have to render with. And then for game engines, you're learning the basics of coding and how you can actually take those like basic concepts of like code and make it work for maybe like the models you've made. And it's really, really fascinating. For me personally, I've been more focused on hard surface modeling and environments, but trying to like demonstrate that I could have it functioning for a game engine like Unity or Unreal, since that's the field like for 3D that I'm most interested in. So yeah.
Okay. So you kind of want to do like more of the video games then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because shockingly the pipeline or like workflow for like games and for film are kind of different. So yeah, so it's really good. So on your portfolio, it's kind of good to show that as well, like to show like, okay, well, I like video game art, so here's a bunch of maybe of like my props or environments being able to fully function in a game engine. Well, if you like to do filming, then maybe look up what do they typically render with, which is like probably going to be like Maya and things like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so like what I've kind of noticed so far is that there are similarities between like video game and like the entertainment industry, as in like they both have modeling, they both have like similar setups, but there's different routes you kind of take with both of them. Yeah. So how did you get... Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you. Like, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So how did you get into your major? Like, what got that spark of interest for you?
It's actually kind of funny. So I was very fortunate to go to this high school that had a magnet program attached to it, and I started 3D modeling in my sophomore year of high school. The reason why I think it's funny is because it actually did not go well at all.
Yeah.
I had a great teacher that year, and I was just so bad at the concepts and trying to grasp the technology aspect of it. So I totally thought, like, I was thinking to myself, like, man, I really want to do this, but like I really suck. Like, I am not good. But I took a break out of 3D after that sophomore year, and I did some fine arts stuff. Like, I did some things like 2D animation. I did practice like sequential art or trying to do like environment paintings, and so that ended up me like looking at a bunch of video games. And like, I've always played video games as like throughout my life, but that's when I really started to try to like study it on my own and see what works, what doesn't work. And I guess the spark of it really kicked in my senior year, where I actually had a different instructor, and he really gave that like push to like, yeah, you should go for it. Because when I came back to 3D, I felt a lot better, since I made tons of mistakes, I guess you can say, the first round. And now when I was doing it, I was like, oh, well, I understand this better now. I can utilize this tool to do this, and I felt better going with it. And luckily my teacher gave me that encouragement to pursue it in college. But yeah, like when I play games, it's always like, I love that storytelling in an environment or on a prop. Like, you can tell, like, you can, you just look at the environment, you can see so much like storytelling without a character, having to tell you, like, oh, this, you don't have some character having to explain every detail. You can just look at it and be like, oh my god, I can tell that this table was damaged through this way, because it, like, you just look at it.
Right. That's really cool that you're able to like have. I didn't know that was even a thing. Classes for 3D modeling, all that for high school. That's pretty sweet. Because like the way I found out about it was, I think, so I was just trying to expand my portfolio because I recently switched over from mechanical engineering to media communication. I did my first co-op in engineering. I was like, this is not my forte.
Yeah, like, no thanks.
Yeah, it was just the work I was doing was a little dry for me. So I switched over to media communication because I kind of had like a little more of a kind of a creative approach, I guess, where it is more audio, video production, graphic design, just like that whole field area of stuff. So it kind of sparked my interest more because that's kind of what I grew up enjoying to do, so it's kind of more aligned with what I was passionate about. And so initially I was just trying to increase my portfolio, so I just kind of dove into 2D animation. I started learning Adobe Animate.
Oh, okay.
And yeah. And so I just took the basic Adobe lessons that were on their website and just kind of started working on my own projects. And then I don't know why I thought this was the move I should make, but I was like, you know what, I should start contacting people. So this was definitely a mistake on my part, and I wouldn't recommend doing this, but what I ended up doing was I sent the same message to every intern at Pixar from the previous summer, asking them for advice. And like, the whole asking for advice is good, but sending the same email is probably not the best move, because it makes you look very artificial. Yeah,
because they're like, hey, did you get this email from this guy? And they're like, yeah, hey, it says the same thing. But
yeah, so I did that. Luckily, they're really cool about it, so a few of them got back to me. And there's one guy, Austin Rodriguez, he got back to me, and he was like, yeah, if you wanted to work with Pixar, there is some routes where you can do 2D, but a lot of it's 3D. And he just kind of gave me like the rundown of like what software I should learn and how I should approach it and everything. And so ever since then, I've been just going to town on 3D. I started it. I was like, okay, maybe I'll just do a little month project just to say like I know how to do it. But then I started doing it and couldn't stop doing it, and just really got addicted to it. And so 1 year later, I've been taking classes online. Just through like Pluralsight. I'm gonna get into Linda, and shoot, what were we talking about? I went on such a life story right there.
I know, you're fine.
I think, okay, yeah, we were talking about how you like kind of figured out about it in high school. Okay, yeah, and then I figured out about it kind of like that way.
Yeah. But I mean,
but
like...
yes.
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, but like back on the you reaching out to, you know, like those Pixar interns and all that, it is good that you did at least like make that attempt and how that one guy, you know, how a couple of them came back to you, because you know, like that's how, like, because one of my professors, he did say like it's good to reach out and like maybe get advice or critiques on your work or on your portfolio, because, you know, in the end that's really how you're going to grow. You know, like you can't just like stick to yourself and only be like, no, like I'm only gonna just post stuff. It's like, no, you need to ask for help or for critiques, because that's how you can really grow. And then they can also just like give you pointers of like, hey, you should try this, or like, hey, you know what, there's this cool thing that can help you achieve that. So that was really good on your part though.
Yeah, I try sometimes, but no, I'm really excited about this episode in particular, because you're actually the first person that's like somewhat in the industry that like I'm actually talking to. Everyone that goes to my university, like this doesn't really exist in my university, or really most of the universities that's like even in my division of colleges. Like I think Bowling Green, they have like a smaller program, but other than that, like I'm just kind of like the odd man out, so it's really hard to kind of find people that kind of share the same interests as me. So,
well,
podcast is, I guess, the one way of going about that.
Yeah, it's nice for you to say like I'm in the industry, but I'm really not. I'm still a student.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like you're studying the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and then I think you said you were doing like freelance work on the side too, aren't you?
Yes, I have practiced freelance for a little, like I started in spring semester, but that was because of it's kind of funny. So I sadly can't really like say what those projects were, because they haven't been publicly announced or even published. So maybe later down, like hopefully, I'm really hoping they release soon, because I was so happy with those outcomes of the project. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but it's funny because for this industry, for 3D, you can... It doesn't really matter if you... Well, okay, I shouldn't say it does not matter, but sometimes, you know, people won't look at your degree. They won't even look at that until later, because what they will always look at, probably first or initially, is your art station or like a portfolio of some kind, because that's... Because they want to see, okay, well, what's... Like, you know, like when you apply for the job, they want to see if you fit the style of their company. So, like, if a company is known to be stylized, you know, and you do realistic, then you may not be the perfect fit, you know, and things like that. But, yeah, like, they will look at your portfolio first, and then they will see, like, okay, what's your background or what's your resume? But, yeah, like, I don't know, for me, even though I am going to a university, you can self-teach yourself, and that, you know, they weigh that important as well. Like, they weigh both equally. Now, sometimes you might have to do some further research on, like, maybe look at a job application for, like, the company you like. Because some companies do want you to have, like, a 4-year degree of some kind. But if your portfolio shows really good work, and you show, like, a really good workflow, then they would probably forgo that and be like, well, we can just, like, show you all pipeline, and then you're good. You know, you're good to go for the job. But yeah, I just thought about it. So.
Oh yeah, and like that was one thing I was really excited about when I found out that I don't need a bachelor's degree or any kind of degree for this field. I can just jump on in, and as long as I get the right information and learn the right kind of stuff, I can hopefully get into the industry. So how did you find out about this freelancing gig? Because like with me, all I really know about is like it's either word of mouth or either the websites. Like I started a Fiverr account, but I haven't really started anything for 3D just because I want to. Well, for one thing, you're probably not going to be getting the best amount of money from Fiverr just because there's like a lot of people that are doing it for like $5 to $10. And then on top of that, I don't want to buy Maya yet, just because it's a little pricey. So I'm looking into getting Blender first, and then kind of learning that and then possibly doing some freelance work through Blender. But so, like, yeah, like, how did you find out about freelance work?
So it's kind of funny because for me, it was actually, it was through a way of contact, like someone talking about me. But it was funny because I had in my fall I did hard surface modeling, and I would just I would ask my professor for critiques, like outside of class or during office hours, like just casually going like, yeah, like like I tried to do this with my model, did I did I really accomplish that? Like, maybe you can point something out to me. And, like, we'll just talk about 3D stuff. And then we went on winter break, and so the spring class that I had to take was organic modeling, which entails, like, modeling characters or creatures. But for that class, we focused more on human characters and studying the anatomy for that. So my organic modeling teacher asked my hard surface modeling teacher, going like, hey, I think it was like, from what I remember, it was like something on the lines of, hey, do you know someone with like a good sense of direction? Do you know someone that can maybe do something like this? Like just like asking like, do you have someone for the job? And it makes me laugh because like, like I'm in a university, so there was probably like like the upperclassmen are probably like 10 times better than like me as a freshman, or like now becoming a sophomore. So my hard surface modeling teacher, he saw me, like I was like sitting in the computer lab we have, like showing my friend on how to do something real quick. And then my hard surface modeling teacher was like, oh yeah, there she is, you should ask her. And that's how I landed it. It was literally through contact. And my organic modeling teacher actually has a quote. Oh, he always says this. He's like, well, to be honest, in a lot of industries, like, and maybe especially even this one, like 95% of the time, your job is probably going to come from someone you know. Now, the thing is, though, is like, even though that holds truth, you have to put forth, you have to show that you can handle, because for me, I was a student, so I had to handle my schoolwork and handle a freelance commission and all that. So it's like, I had to have a good portfolio in some sense, but also have a good work ethic. And then, like, when they recommend me, when my professor recommended me, I had to keep that in mind as well, because sometimes recommending someone can even be dangerous, because that can ruin your credibility in the end. Like, if you recommend someone, like a friend, but then that friend doesn't do good at the job, then it's like, oh, well, okay. But yeah, so basically I landed that position through my hard surface modeling teacher, and I still can't believe that, because I'm a freshman, so I'm like, what? Why did he pick me? Like, what?
You're off to a good start.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I guess it's going good so far. But thanks to those two freelance things I did, now my organic modeling, professor, he told me, he was like, yeah, like, if I see something that you fit the job for, I'll totally, recommend you. So yeah, like,
it's really awesome.
I know, I'm honestly still blown away, and I'm like, I don't know how this happened. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, cool. That's the one thing that I'm like trying to figure out, is just because I'm not really around a whole lot of people that are really in the industry. So for me, like, that's definitely the one thing I think a perk of going to like an art school where they have they're really big in like this kind of area of study is if you take advantage of everything, you have a lot of really good connections with just your the people that you're studying with, the teachers, and if you kind of go about it the right way, it could be really good for you. Whereas if you don't go to school, it can be a little difficult trying to find people to meet, which is, I kind of have this very funny idea. So you know how in classes, they don't, like, you can basically just go into a class, like if it's a bigger class, they're not really gonna notice that there's just some random like person in the background. So
Some
what I was thinking,
new kid.
so what I'm thinking is maybe like I'll go to California for like a month and then just kind of sit in one of the classes over at Cal Arts and just kind of chill out. go after class to one of the professors and be like, hey, can you check out my portfolio, and just kind of see how that goes.
Well, I will say
Be very affordable too.
I will say, yeah, like school, like this is when sometimes, like, if you go to a place like Cal Arts, like everyone always jokes like, well, if you go to Cal Arts, you're basically guaranteed a job, but but at the same time, like, if you like, so my senior year I did look at several colleges, and I did look at Cal Arts, and yeah, like their application process though, it's a lot, and it's very
definitely
like, it's very rigorous, but at the same time, like, you know, it speaks a lot if you as like a senior can pull off all the requirements that they need, you know, and you know, yeah, so, but I don't know about that plan of trying to sit in a class. I will admit, I don't imagine their classes being so huge, so you might get noticed.
Yeah. Maybe a different school of the same concept.
But I will say, like, it's funny, so my hard surface modeling professor, he did not actually go to school for 3D. He actually majored in fine arts, and he did, you know, 3D on the side as like kind of like how you are, you know, like it sparked his interest, and yeah, like he started off like just learning it, and he kept going at it, and now he works actually. So he did do freelance basically for a good while. That was like his experience, I guess you can say. He did a lot of freelancing. And then he went to GDC, or the Game Developers Conference, and he ended up meeting someone from Activision. Like I think he met the recruiter, and like a recruiter for Activision. And yeah, like they liked his work, and now he works at, you know, a studio. So it's like crazy.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, but you know, like, so what he would do, from at least like when we talk sometimes, yeah, like he would just. So, like, for someone like you that isn't surrounded heavily by, like, 3D, like, people, you can just go to ArtStation, and let's say you find a piece that you like someone's, like, prop. Then, you know, most of the time, most people like to share, like, how they did a certain thing. Like, basically, like, just ask them questions of, like, oh, that's so cool. Like, how did you handle this? Did you use this program? Like, did you... And, you know, like, and they'll talk to you about it. Because basically, when you talk to people, you know, they may think of you at some way. You're like, you know, I did see some person do this type of project, and I think they could fit the position at the studio. You know what I mean? Like, they might like be like, oh, you know what? I did see someone's, like, I saw someone's ArtStation, and I liked this piece from them, and like, we're looking for someone that can do this. So let me see if they're available. You know, it's crazy of how sometimes talking to someone can just be like, oh, hello, a job? but
don't mind if I do.
Yeah, but again, it's like this field can be, you know, like, it can be competitive, but like, if you, like, it's going to be sounding kind of like, I guess, like a bit kiddish, but if you do work hard, and you know, if you reach out to people, ask for critiques, and, you know, and listen to their advice and things like that, you know, it will stand out, and it will show throughout your progress. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so it is, from what I've heard, and just from my own experience, it is really hard to kind of get into the industry. But at the same time, like, that kind of makes it all that much more fun, because there's, like, that cliche quote where it's not about the destination, but it's about the journey. And, like, if you just take, like, an easy journey, that destination's not going to be all that flashy. But if, like, you really work for it, when you're all done in the end, it's going to really pay off and feel rewarding. So, yeah. So that's, like, definitely, like, with this industry, I feel like it can be very hard to get into. But when you get into the industry, like, not only are you doing it, but you're surrounded by people that are just as obsessed and passionate about it as you are, which is, like, really cool to think about, that you can, like, have that
Yeah, because actually, yeah, it's funny because I'm thinking again about my hard surface modeling professor. Yeah, like he had to go through like he didn't get what I mean? Like, he did not get his first studio position until like right now, but he did work really hard. Like he did several art tests for several studios. And then like he was going through college, learning 3D, did all this art test, and now he like finally landed a position that he really, really loves. And I was like, everyone was like happy for him, and we're like, go take the job, leave us, get out of here now. Yeah. We're like, don't even think about us, man, just go. So yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because we were like, like once he told us like, yeah, I got this position, we were like, go, just leave. But luckily the studio that he's working with, they understood like, oh, okay, you're an instructor, when does class end? And he's like, oh, it ends this time. And he was like, oh, and like, yeah, we'll wait. And then it was like that was very fortunate, for them to actually like wait for him to finish teaching.
Sure. Definitely. Is there any this is kind of really very non-fluent transition, but
no, you're fine.
Is there any like artists or anyone that you look up to that you kind of like, any podcasts or any groups of artists that you kind of follow?
Ooh, honestly, goodness. See, I used to have a clear answer for that because I when I studied 2D animation, like I really studied Hayao Miyazaki for the way how he handles animation and the way he does concept. But when I started 3D, I honestly look at a bunch of I look at ArtStation, and then I find pieces that I like that make me go like, you know what, I really like how, like, basically I use ArtStation a lot as inspiration, or sometimes I just want to see like that workflow and be like, oh my god, that's so neat, let me try to incorporate that. I guess though, like, yeah, like I feel bad because I don't have that many of a specific artist, but I do have games that like keep me going or keep me inspired of like wanting to tell stories, even though I don't have to be there to like physically say it. So like one of the games, I guess, or companies, always Nintendo, because I like, especially for Breath of the Wild, like the Legend of Zelda series, because I always loved how they, I always like Nintendo of how they will use like their life as inspiration to make a game. Like I always love that. Because it can honestly make the message like stronger. And another series is like Final Fantasy, because I love Square Enix products most of the time. So yeah, like I don't know, like it's really hard to just have like a specific artist, I guess, because a lot of 3D artists give me like a, because it's like, since I'm still like, we're still starting and we're still new, it's like, oh my god, that's crazy. So yeah, I will say, I guess I do have to give credit though to my hard surface modeling professor for, like, for giving me encouragement and for like helping me, I guess, like push the concepts that I already knew when I entered that class like even further. And yeah. yeah.
So like, whenever you're doing your work, do you just like listen to music, or do you listen to podcasts or anything, or you just kind of let the silence take over? Or?
I actually this is kind of bad. So if I remember to play music, there will be music. If I forget, then I'm just working in silence. It totally just depends.